Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. Bienvenue à la première réunion du comité de vérification. Welcome to our first meeting of the Audit Committee. Want to special welcome back to Councillor El Shantiri, Councillor DeRuse, who were on the committee last time, and Councillor Hubley also, who's absent today, regretfully. A special welcome to Councillor Kavanagh, first time on the Audit Committee, and Vice Chair Meehan. Thank you for agreeing to serve, and a warm welcome. And thank you to the staff of the OAG who are here for all their hard work, and to members of the public. We have a pretty short agenda today, so let's get to it. With respect, any declarations of interest? None? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes from the last meeting as stated in the agenda? Carried. Thank you. And now the consent agenda. Item number 1, the terms of reference. There's no presentation. There are no speakers. We have no speakers. No presentation, no speakers. Also, there's no changes either. And correct. This was. There are no changes to the terms of reference from the past term. Is this item carried? Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Item number 2, the draft operating and capital budget for the Audit Committee. Would anyone like to hold this item? We have no presentation, and no speakers are registered. Fine. You can. Yes, and Vice Chair Meehan has a roadmap motion.
But the Audit Committee recommend that Council, sitting as Committee of the Whole, approve the Audit Committee 2019 draft budget operating resource requirement. And that's it.
It's a pretty short roadmap motion. Any questions? Concerns? No? Carried?
Carried.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 of our agenda is the Ernst & Young audit plan, and we do have a presentation. Is the Deputy Treasurer, and Suzy Gignac from Ernst & Young, and Isabel, you are not participating in the presentation? No? Are here to present. So please proceed as you see fit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Happy to be here today. I'm the partner on the audit engagement for the City of Ottawa, and I have here with me Nita Myers, who's the Senior Manager on the engagement. Just wanted to walk you through our audit plan today so you have an idea of what we'll be doing in the coming months, and then we'll be back to report to you at the end of the completion of our audit. So the EY services, just so you're aware, are that we provide an opinion on the consolidated financial statements, that they are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with public sector accounting standards. We also do other work on financial information of related entities and subsidiaries of the city and other programs where the city is reporting to other levels of government for spending that they've incurred. As part of our work, we do look at internal controls, so if we identify any issues, we'll also report to you on significant deficiencies, and we'll provide feedback to management if we identify any other deficiencies that we think they may want to address. At the end of the audit, we'll provide our audit results, and we will also be engaged to perform translation of the French consolidated financial statements and the financial highlights included in the annual report of the city. So starting with planning materiality, this is one of the first things we do as we're developing our audit plan. And as I mentioned, we're formulating an opinion on the consolidated financial statements as to their fair presentation in all material respects in accordance with the applicable standards. So planning materiality is a critical factor. It's the level at which we think an error or omission would impact a user's decision when they're using the financial statements. So we generally look at both quantitative and qualitative factors, and we look at the city's operating budget to determine materiality. And we also look at the standards because there are sort of some set percentages that are used. And for the city, we've determined that expenditures are the critical financial indicator, and so we have identified 2% of budgeted expenditures as the materiality level for the audit. This is $68.8 million versus $67.1 million in the prior year. The threshold we're using and the methodology to determine materiality is in line with prior years. As we go through the audit, if we identify issues, we will raise those, and we will also reconsider materiality as those may impact it. And just to let you know, we do a significant amount of work at testing levels well below planning materiality. This is the level when we combine all of the issues that we would determine it could have an impact on a user. But we do testing on a sample basis, both for key items, which are above a certain dollar threshold, which would be a percentage of TE, and also random samples. So our audit approach, when you're doing an audit, you can do an audit where you test controls and you do detailed testing, or you just do detailed testing, so a substantive audit. For the city, we have historically and will continue to rely on controls. We have specialists that look at IT general controls over SAP and MarkView. And we also look at controls over certain processes. So for the city, we look at the payroll controls and we look at accounts payable and expenditure controls as well. As a result of relying on those, we can do less detailed testing because we have an overall comfort level with the control and processes. For the remaining significant processes, we do a substantive approach, which is detailed testing. So I'm going to pass it over to Mita, who will give you a little more detail on the areas of audit emphasis and the specific testing that we do in those areas.
Good morning, everyone. So I will not go into detail testing procedures, but I'll just highlight some of the procedures that we perform in some of the areas of audit emphasis. So the first area is revenue recognition, and we perform the data analytics over certain significant revenue streams, as well as we'll conduct other detailed substantive procedures on the remainder of the revenue streams. We're going to perform the 100% of the transactions to look at the correlation between revenue, accounts receivable, and cash, and should there be any anomalies, we'll investigate further. For the tangible capital assets, we will also use our data analytics tool and perform our work. We'll also, in addition, we'll conduct a detailed investigation of any additions, transfers, or disposals, and also look at the assumptions used for the useful life and the depreciation methods used by the city. For other areas of emphasis, such as investments, we'll perform substantive procedures on the valuation and assess the differences and significant increases in fair market value or any gains and losses as a result of the sale or purchase of the investments. For the employee future benefits, we will, similar to prior years, we will involve our specialists to look at the assumptions, management assumptions used in the valuation of the employee future benefits. Contingent liabilities and commitments, we will look at the new agreements entered by the city during the year, as well as we'll assess completeness and accuracy of the disclosures for the commitments, including commitments of the Ottawa Light Rail Transit project. Overall, we will also assess the appropriateness of the financial statement disclosures as they are in line with the appropriate standards, as well as we are supposed to look at the risk of, as part of our procedures, we're supposed to look at the fraud risk and assess on a transactional basis via assessment of the journal entry testing to see if there's any risk of management override. And Susie will continue the presentation.
So very quickly, our audit plan. So we normally come...
Oops. Yep. Yours off. Good. Our audit planning, normally we would have been here in the fall, but due to the election we're here a bit later to present our audit plan. We have done planning and control testing at this point, and it's under review. We will be out to the city in March, April to conduct the year-end audit, and then we will report to you in May and expect to issue the financial statements and our opinion after we conclude the audit and it's approved. So the final thing we wanted to talk about, there are some new accounting developments this year that the city has already started to review, and we will work with them on. We've listed them here. We don't anticipate that they will have a significant impact on the financial statements, but we will continue to work with the city on that. And then there is also a new audit report that has been is effective after December 15, 2018. So that at the end of the audit, you will see that our audit report is different than it was in the past, where now the opinion is at the beginning of the audit report, followed by a basis for our opinion and more detail on management and the auditor's responsibilities. So it will be a little different, and it's a couple pages in length, so a little longer than in the past, but we anticipate that shouldn't create any significant issues. Everyone has a new audit report at this point in time. So we're happy to answer any questions on our plan.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you very much. So exciting, my first audit committee at City Hall. We just got this report this morning, so it didn't give us very much time to look into it. We're definitely, but I noticed that you were talking about you'll be auditing the completeness and accuracy of the disclosures and commitments, including related to the LRT project. Are you talking specifically about stage 1? And what about stage 2? Are you be auditing that as well?
So at this point, it's definitely stage 1. There are actually expenditures, a significant amount of expenditures in the financial statements, and there are disclosures associated with that. For stage 2, we will be looking at any contracts that have been approved and signed and whether any disclosures are required as a result of that, because there are, standards that support whether you disclose something or not. And then we would also, if any expenditures have been incurred, we'll be looking at those expenditures as well.
What kind of time frame are we looking at in both of those, please?
Sorry?
What is the timelines for both, for the stage 1 and stage 2 in terms of the work you're doing?
Well, it's when expenditures are incurred, then we look at those in the financial statements, or they're committed to, then we would look at the disclosures. So the financial statements are for the prior year, so the December 31, 2018, so it's things that happened in 2018, or if there are any subsequent events that took place in 2019, then those may require a disclosure, but they wouldn't be accounted for necessarily in the 2018 financial statements.
But I expect there was commitments that were made in 2018 for the phase 2, so you'll be looking at those?
If there were commitments, then we'll be looking at the disclosures associated with those.
Okay. And when would we get that result? Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
So the results of our audit will come to the committee in May, and then we anticipate issuing our financial statements in June. And that's, it's dependent on when there's a meeting, but it's usually in May.
In May?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Any other questions? No? Any significant changes to your approach?
No. Our approach is very much in line with prior years.
And Councillor Kavanagh mentioned the LRT, of course, as an element of emphasis. Any other significant elements of emphasis that you'll be? I saw in the report benefits, employee benefits is one of the elements. Any others that you'd like to bring to our attention?
No, not other than what Mita's already mentioned. And when we focus on the revenue extensively and the revenue recognition, we focus on the tangible capital assets, the investments, and then all of the contingent liabilities and commitments, as well as the actuarial evaluation associated with the employee benefits, because there are estimates associated with that and assumptions.
Thank you very much. No other questions? So is this item received? Received. Thank you very much. Zipping through the agenda. Any in-camera items? Notices of motion? Inquiries? Other business? Motion. Councillor Kavanagh.
I'm just going to make my usual statement that even though we're an audit committee that looks at numbers, I hope that we will also consider looking at a gender lens in terms of when we are making financial statements and looking at how the money is spent.
Thank you very much. And thus, motion to adjourn? Carried? Thank you. Next meeting is to be determined in March, I believe. Thank you all very much. Merci.